What's up, Salt Strong Nation? Joe Simons like diamonds here with Luke Simons like diamonds. Where are we here? In your little reel room?
Yeah, just in the little film room, but we'll have a big old collection of reels that I've accumulated over the years, just testing out different products, different sizes, and we hear all the time, hey, I'm going inshore fishing, what size reel should I get? Or hey, I have a 4,000 size reel, what should I purchase with? Or I have a rod, what reel should I put on it? Tons of questions coming in, and we just wanted to just go through the science and art of matching the reel you're going to be using to both your rod and the type of fishing you're doing.
And here's why. You're wasting money. And we know because we did that forever. Remember, we would only fish with 4,000 series reels for everything, like even catching trout on the flats, and we realized, holy smokes, we were wasting money and getting poor performance. Like, talk about a double whammy, kick you in both shins. So, we got rained out, which is why we're in here in Luke's room, and we still have at least I have my buff on. And we're like, man, what's a question that keeps coming up over and over again from even some pretty experienced anglers? And there's a lot of confusion on it. So we're gonna talk about some really expensive reels, like this is an $800 3,000 size reel, to some cheaper ones, to different sizes. Even Joel had brought up, when is the best time to use a 4,000? When's the best time to use a 1,000 reel? Because we also sell 1,000s there at fishstrong.com. So where do you want to kick this bad boy off?
Yeah, I think we'll start off just with the unfortunate truth that the reel sizes aren't always real sizes. So when you cross brands, but also internal brands. So I'm holding two reels up.
Yeah, let's talk about them. So I know some people are listening and not watching.
Yeah, so I'm holding two reels. One is the Daiwa BG. So this is the same company, but one's the Daiwa BG, one's the Daiwa Fuego. Both are listed as 2,500 size reels. And as those who are watching, as you can see, the diameter of the spool is much different. Even the recommended line, the recommended line for these reels are totally different. When you look at the specs of the BG, they don't even list 10-pound line on how much capacity a 10-pound line it can hold, because it's just not designed for 10-pound line. It's designed for stronger lines. Whereas the 2,500 Fuego, that's more of a finesse reel, so that is designed for 10-pound line. That's why it's smaller, and you can hold more than enough 10-pound line on this 2,500 Fuego than you need for most inshore fishing. Unless you're fishing past the inlets. If you're going for even 40 plus inch redfish and snook in the bays, can easily be caught with a 2,500 size reel, even a finesse reel like the Fuego. You don't need to get the big ones. And for many years, we would go out and get 4,000s, and that was back in the mono days. So here's literally the one that I used that I got. Yeah. This is a Shimano Sonora, I believe is the name of it. But as you can see, and for those who are listening, as we'll describe, the size is not even close. It's night and day difference.
And the weight.
Yeah, the weight's different. So and as you go higher in size, usually the price increases. And so you're wasting money on the cost of the reel. You're now putting way too much line. If you have a 4,000 size reel and you're putting thin braid on it for like trout fishing, as Joe mentioned, you're gonna have like 300 yards of braid on here. You do not need 300 yards of braid, especially for trout fishing. Really for any kind of fishing, of fish, unless you're going after tarpon, you don't need 300-pound braid. And if you're going after tarpon, you shouldn't have 10-pound line to begin with. But anyhow, it's just going smaller is typically best for those of us who are fishing bays, creeks, inland waters. That's one thing I've learned over the years. It's more affordable on the line. It's easier for just performance, has better performance, and you save money on the reels too in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched you in particular over the years. I'm still having a little bit of trouble adjusting, meaning, Luke goes to 2,500, it's kind of his go-to. I still buy a lot of 3,000s. It's kind of, and I don't know why, I think it's more the comfort, but I used to only buy 4,000s, and now I'm realizing, holy smokes, I was blowing a lot of money, and there's more weight on there. I mean, especially if you're casting artificial lures, throwing around slam shadies and power prawns and freds, I mean, that's a lot of extra weight. And all of a sudden you start feeling it in your wrist and getting carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, all kinds of stuff happens as you get older like me and do a lot of cast. And that's another reason I'm spending a lot more money on some of my reels. I still believe by far that you should spend more money on your rod than your reel. And we've done a whole podcast on that. We'll talk about it a little bit. I mean, basically the rod's doing all the work, making the cast, hook set. I mean, it's critical. But I do value a really light reel now, and that's why I love the Fuegos. I love my Exist. Obviously, I want to stay married, and there's only so many $800 reels, even with our 20% discount. It's very, very expensive. So you've done a good job, back to where I started with this, of going down to 2,500, but you don't go to 1,000.
No, not really. I did a casting contest, and I did both were the Fuegos because that's what I was using, and I got a 3,000, maybe 2,500. I can't remember, but it was the 2,500 and 3,000 Fuego are almost the same. The difference in diameter is barely, it's minuscule. And then you go down to the 1,000, which I have in here. I think it's on the rod, but the 1,000 is much smaller, and so the diameter is smaller. So I did a casting experiment. Wondering if the line, the diameter of the line is thinner on a smaller reel, is that going to help? But you have more rotations. And the casting contest, it was really about the same. It wasn't that big of a difference. What was a noticeable difference when I was using them is the act of using it. So one thing that I never thought of, and that I recommend you think of when you're doing reel selection, is think about the actual amount of line that is retrieved when you do an act of one turn of the handle. Most companies, fortunately, actually give us that information. And so what I found with using that small 1,000 size reel with artificial lures is that diameter is so small, and it has the same gear ratio. Now with one turn of the handle, I was getting like 10 inches of line less, plus or minus. Less line with that 1,000 size reel. So I was dock fishing at the time, and my performance was hindered by not being able to retrieve my line quickly. Because especially for those of us who are fishing the shallow flats or dock fishing, most of the strikes are going to happen, like for dock fishing, most of the strikes are going to happen like right next to the piling. So, if you're making a 30-foot cast of piling, that's say 5 feet away, there's pretty much not going to have a good shot of catching a fish. So you might as well get that lure in as fast as you can, and then cast another one, hit the next piling. And so the more time it takes to reel that thing in, the less chance you have in the strike zone. So giving you the 2,500 size reel, and many of the brands have extra fast gear ratio, and so that's what I now go with, because now with one turn of the reel, I'm actually getting more line retrieved than most 3,000 size reels. And I'm not overspinning on braid because I can pack plenty of braid on the 2,500 size reel. So that's kind of the high level things I've seen so far. But as I said before, it's just unfortunate that going from different reel to different reel, you can't really go by the numbers. So you pretty much have to go by. You have to really look at the specs. So it gets a little bit boring, but to know for sure, you really need to go by the specs. And just see what exactly, like how much line these reels hold, whichever reel you're looking into, and then what lines are shown to see what's recommended, right? So like this BG 2500 doesn't even show 10-pound line.
They're telling you something there.
Yeah, so they're basically saying it's not really made for 10-pound line. And just the reel by itself, this is more of a power reel. This is a reel for dock fishing, right, where you have to pull some big fish away from structure. You don't want to be using 10-pound line for that. And so they made it bigger so that you can, pack on. I think you can get like 160 or 170 yards of 20-pound line on this reel. And that's a really good, so that's what I use for dock fishing now. I've had too many fish break me off on the 10-pound lines. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of extra effort on just matching the gear.
All right, so to make this super clear, let's just go with the Fuego. What's the difference between a Fuego 2,500 and 3,000?
Not much. I wish I have my 3,000s rigged up.
You can talk through it.
Yeah, so not much. It's really there's two 2,500s in the Fuego line. One is the extra fast gear. It's the faster gear, and then the slower gear.
And which one are you going with?
So I go with the fast. It's called the XH.
And it's interesting. The Bass guys, the ones who are making hundreds of thousands, some of them, make millions in a year just from all their sponsorships. It's big money. I mean, this is real deal. They talk about that all the time. It's important. If you watch the Bass guy, guess what they're doing? They fished what you just talked about, one area of structure, and then second they're out of that area, they're getting that lure or whatever they happen to be using, worm, chatterbait in as quick as humanly possible. I mean, it's all about, Mike Iaconelli was famous for that, just absolute power fishing, where he could get his lure in that money zone faster than anybody else out there. And so he wants the fastest gear ratio. I mean, you watch those guys, it is crazy how fast they zip it in after, like you said, a couple little twitches in the area. And then, it's just like, whoa, where did that lure come from?
Yeah, it's whoever has their lure in the strike zone the most is going to catch the most fish. It's literally as simple as that. And so
sounds so easy.
But even in open flats too, the fish are so skittish, especially in most of our Florida waterways. Unfortunately, they're really, really skittish. And so it's rare that you're going to get a strike within 30 feet of the boat. And so in many cases, it's better just to kind of crank it in and then launch another cast and then cover that ideal strike zone.
One exception, unless you're in Louisiana.
Yeah, as I was saying in Florida, yeah. Louisiana's a different ball game. But again, in most cases, it's just good to be able to just, when you need to retrieve quickly, right? You can always, it's hard to justify a slower reel because you can always just barely, if you need to have a slow retrieve, just slow the retrieve down, right? There's only so fast you can actually, start twist this thing to get your line in. So.
All right, so we got two different sizes of 2500. How is it different in terms of the same class than 3000?
They're so similar. There's not much of a difference, and that's why some brands don't even carry one or the other because the 2500 to 3000 jump is so small. And for most lines, like for the Fuego, the jump's really small. So the standout is the one that actually has the higher gear ratio because it's not the gear ratio, right? You can't go by gear ratio either because it's the gear ratio combined with the diameter of the spool is what determines how much line you retrieve per turn of the reel. And it's really the only factor we should really care about is how many inches of line do I pull in when I twist the handle one time. The gear ratio really doesn't matter. That's so unless you know the diameter and have a crazy calculation, ideally, in most cases, the actual reel manufacturers will tell you how much line is retrieved. That I would say is a much more important factor than just gear ratio by itself, which is kind of doesn't mean much.
Yep, and that's something you can't really fake or finagle, right? Because it's very frustrating as anglers when you're buying rods and reels when there's no uniform.
Yep.
Like medium heavy can mean something completely different to this manufacturer versus this one, and same with these, right? Even that Daiwa BG, like the old school one, the 4500. It's the same size. It's like almost an 8,000. It's somewhere between, let's just call it a 7,000. It's massive. That's what it's our tarpon fishing reel.
Yeah.
And even what you call that 9-foot hammerhead. And that's on a 4,500. And so it can be very, very frustrating sometimes that there's no uniform ranking for all this. But as Luke said, the one thing that is well, what are you doing? You're moving stuff around. You're making me nervous.
Yeah.
Is how much line is being brought in. So go back, because I don't think we still have answered this. What is the difference? So why does Daiwa Fuego make a 2500 and a 3000?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Is one lighter?
Barely. It's minuscule.
One holds more line?
I think just people requested that, I have to imagine. So yeah, obviously the 3000 hold more line.
Okay, well that's something different.
Yeah.
That's it though.
Pretty much, and the 2500 is a little bit lighter. It's just a small percentage smaller. The biggest difference is that line retrieve for the extra fast, and as far as loading line, right? If I buy a 150-yard spool, or say I buy a 300-yard spool of line of braid and 10-pound braid, I'm loading both on 10-pound braid. I don't even need enough line of the 2500 to hold 150. Like the 2500 holds, I think it was like 180-ish or 190 yards of braid, and I'd rather just have 150 yards flat, so I put some mono in there, and long story short, the 2500 holds plenty of braid. So in my mind, if you're using 10-pound line, there's no need to go up to a 3000 in most cases.
I still do.
Yeah, you're welcome to, but you don't need to. And again, in most cases, the weight of the reels are the same, going from same brand, but a 2500 to 3000. If they're different, it's not noticeable.
I got a question for you and the brands listening. Why don't we see a lot of 2000s? We got 1000s, we got 2500s, 3000s.
Yeah, they have. Like I have several.
I don't see that. I don't see that often.
Yeah, BG. Yeah, just not very popular. But again, like 3000s. Like I remember when we started using spinning tackle, like 4,000 was it. I feel like 4,000, that was like, if you had something lower than 4,000, it's kind of weird. Now with the fact that
it's like having a 150 on your bass boat, right? You gotta have at least a 300 on that bass boat.
Yeah, fly. If you're not going 90, you're not going.
You're nobody. Jeez.
But I think with the advent of braid and how thin it is and how strong it is that the smaller reels are becoming more and more popular. So like the 1,000 size reels are actually selling great. Like they're actually
nuts.
Very popular.
I apologize to all of you anglers, especially our insiders who are buying these 1,000 reels. I was about to like veto that. I was like, why? Because we have to buy this stuff with our own hard-earned money. We're not sponsored by any of these groups, so we have like $1 million right now of our own money out there to get mostly rods and reels right now. We have some monster orders coming in. And I kept seeing all these 1,000 series reels. Like, why are we spending our money on this? It's going to sit there forever, and they sell like crazy.
Yeah, they fly.
And obviously now we've looked into it, and you've bought some. I still personally, I like the 2,500s and 3,000s in general. But why are people buying a 1,000? For those who are scratching their head,
right? For like when you got that, when you got this reel and you wanted to match, you wanted to have the lightest setup possible. Mm-hmm. Right? If you get a 1,000 size reel, like you can have not even the best material, and it's just going to be super light. And when you have like that 1,000 Fuego, I mean, it's so light that it's first of all made out of light material, and it's a little small 1,000. But the crazy part is with 10-pound braid, it holds over 100 yards. Like it holds more than enough
still
braid.
Got a high drag. Like you're never going to max out the drag.
Yeah, the drag's low. I wish I had the specs on it, but the drag was low. But with 10-pound braid, right, the recommended tension for your reel, the recommended drag you need is only 20 to 30% of your weakest line strength. So if you're using a 10-pound braid, you only need 3 pounds of drag. And even a terrible, probably a $30 1,000 size reel, if they even make that, I don't know. But even that would have 3 pounds of drag. It might not be the smoothest drag, but it would have 3 pounds. And so you can very well go down to a 1,000 size reel and catch big fish with braid. Like even my 2,000, I have the Piscifun. Got a 2,000 Piscifun to test it out, and that was what I caught that 42-inch snook with while fishing on an oyster bar. And the drag wasn't smooth, right? It was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Definitely not smooth after you use it a few times.
Yeah, I had Otis on the boat too, which didn't help, but it worked, right? So getting a $800 reel isn't needed. You don't have to have 4,000 size. You can get these lower end reels. When I say lower end, like anything like 50 to 100 can get the job done. And just even these small reels can work. But if you're doing artificial, make sure to just factor in I would twist the handle, but this one's broken off.
Oh, whammy.
But I would make sure to factor in the amount of inches you retrieve per turn.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
And I see you got something new in your hand. So before we go to this next segment, we also want to do, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this. So you mentioned Piscifun. There's some of these brands that are coming out that are, super cheap. Cheap. They work. They don't work that long. And so what we started doing, and this is where we want your feedback, is we've been buying some of these reels that we see like on wish.com. If you've ever been to wish.com, it's basically just cheap stuff made in China. And I think occasionally you actually, find some decent stuff. But we've bought now,
so far we haven't. But
yeah, we have not on the reel side of things. But
supposedly is out
we
there
see, and it's shame on some of these China ripoffs. Like they'll even use like the name of Daiwa, and they use Abu Garcia a lot. I see in Penn, and so they're basically stealing their names, which is illegal, and then basically trying to copy them with just cheaper parts and like zero quality control. So we've probably got 7 or 8 of them now. And we haven't used them all in the water. Some, like, you can just feel like this is complete trash. Some actually feel and look okay, and we spool them up, and I caught that one bass, and like even just after catching one little bass, that drag sounded like, horrible. So anyhow, we want to do a whole podcast on just the stuff we've bought on Wish.com, some of these cheap China stuff, and kind of poke fun of it, talk about some of the pros and cons. And I'd love your feedback if you guys would like us to do that podcast. Basically, just stuff we found on Wish.com. Let us know, because I think it'd be fun to do it. And we're still trying. Like, I'd love to find something that's, $17 and actually holds up. It's just, I don't know that it can in saltwater. And that's why we have to, spend at minimum, I'd say $60 to $70 before you get something that's going to be quality. If like that Legalis, I mean, that's been surprising. We've been using that for a while in saltwater, and it keeps holding up. Not as good as the Fuego, because the Fuego's got the mag seal, but doggone, I mean, that Legalis, and after our insider discount, I mean, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, but I've even had a lot of these reels that don't have any sort of crazy protections, like the Battle 2. I've had those go under. I've had the BG, the normal BG, go under multiple times. The Shimano Spheros has gone in. If it gets in the water, it doesn't mean it's totally wrecked. And in all cases, I just don't wash them out just to see, right? Because part of my job is to field test these things. And in many cases, like nothing really happens.
That's because you're lazy.
That might be part of it. But in many cases, nothing really happens. You can't really tell. Some, I think a lot of it depends on the angle that it goes in. But obviously, the more protection, the better. And that's where you get what you pay for when you buy the higher end stuff. Like I've had my Fuegos now for a while. That's the lowest price reel that has mag seal in the Daiwa line, and that mag seal stuff seems pretty legit. Because I've had it go under multiple times, and I can't even tell the difference between my older ones and my newer ones. Like they've actually held up. That's been the best I've seen consistently hold up. But even on the ones without any kind of protection, one or two drops in many cases won't do anything. But there's sometimes it's one drop and it's toast. Like if it goes into like mud, where you have salt water and like mud,
dirt,
sand particles,
and just
or in the sand, like dry sand on the beach is the worst.
Yes.
So that's why I actually don't like spending a lot of money on reels, because if you drop this $800 reel in the sand,
that's different though.
No matter what size, I don't know.
No, because that's got, so if you guys don't know, this Daiwa exists. It is definitely like the most high end of best saltwater spinning reels you can possibly get. It's crazy light. It just, everything about it is just smooth. So here's the only way this would ever make sense. And I'm not recommending you buy one, by the way, unless you just have a lot of money and you really want the nicest of nicest. But here's where this does kind of make some sense. It's a lifetime guarantee / warranty, and once per year, at least once per year, you can go to any of the tackle stores that basically are like a Daiwa registered tackle store and that does cleaning, professional cleaning, and they will completely take this thing apart and clean it, kind of like getting an Apple certified Mac, where you basically get a new MacBook or whatever it is, because I bought a few of those in the past, that they go through and just completely clean out the entire thing and make it new. And so I'm up for my year right now, and so I'm gonna do a video on that as well, where I go to, I think there's 6 in the state of Florida that I can go pick from, and they will completely clean this thing out and make it like, do that once a year. And all of a sudden, if I still have this 20 years from now, I guess the question is, does it ever go overboard? Then you're out, obviously.
For how much does it cost? Is that for free? Complimentary?
Oh yes, it's free. Yeah, so that's
pretty
part of the deal. So Daiwa, here's what they know. I mean, $800. I'm guessing it probably cost them $100 to make it, and so in their mind, they can pay these groups a little bit. I mean, it doesn't cost that much to clean it, and it's a great deal. I mean, it's how you justify. Same with the warranties on, like, Orvis. I mean, I even have that Orvis luggage that I almost lost the $800 reel. I'll have to take it in a little bit earlier than I thought. But the Orvis, luggage has the lifetime stuff, and I've had some zippers go bad on my Orvis luggage, and take it into Orvis, and they replace it for free. But it's $500-600 luggage. It's a lot of money. So that's how you justify it. This is not a pitch for the Daiwa exist. Like I said, it's tough to swallow that much money, even with a nice discount. But man, that thing is awesome, and I'm really excited to see what happens when I take it in. And I don't know if it can get any smoother, but I'm entitled, because I paid for the sucker for one cleaning per year, and I'm gonna get that one cleaning.
Yeah, my point was, if you drop that in the sand or in some muddy water, it's probably not going to be as smooth. It can be cleaned, and those materials are amazing, but that's why I just personally just go with the smaller ones. That way, when they do drop, for me, like I'm paddleboard fishing, it's going to go in the water. It's a matter of when. I'm not quite as upset.
Well, I'm not letting you take that anywhere, by the way.
Fine with me. And this whole size thing, so we've been talking about the lighter, so most about the inshore stuff. For those going after tarpon, right now it's been kind of in tarpon season, and so wanted to hit up the higher reels too. And this was another money-saving tip that I wish I knew years ago, is that even for big game fishing, you don't have to get a $300 plus reel. You don't have to get the high-end stuff. These lower-end reels can pack a punch. And again, you don't have to get an 8,000 size reel, or some people have to get a 12,000 size reel for tarpon. That's a big reel. Like, you don't need that big of a reel in most cases. So for an example, this is the BG 4500.
Oh, that's the one we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It
So
looks
this
like
is
a 8,000 or 7,000.
Yeah, so this is a 4500 size, and it's big, right? So this one beneath it that I'm holding is the Florida Fishing's product 4000, and it's like night and day difference, right? So they're held right next to each other to the camera. One is way bigger than the other. And what's interesting is this 4500, for my tarpon setups, I used to always get the Shimano Spheros, which is like in the 180 range or something. And that was like the lowest I'll go. I thought that I needed like the Stratics, like the super expensive ones. But going down to the Keys, fish with Captain Hollywood, this is what I used for tarpon. And I was like, a 4500 for tarpon, are you serious? And even the shark setups. And the first time we went down there, it was a 7-foot hammerhead with this reel, this 4500 reel and 30-pound line, and it handled it amazingly well.
Yeah.
And then the trip after that, we hooked into a tarpon about 100 pounds, same thing with 30-pound braid, and we had the entire thing on film without any cuts. I was fighting, I felt like to me it was 20, 30 minutes, and we look at film, it was under 15 minutes. And so this not super expensive reel, I think it's like $130, it packs a punch. And again, a 4500. So when you're thinking tarpon, same deal, is that don't focus so much on the size. If you're getting, so this is a 4,000 size reel. This is that Florida Fishing Products, and actually how it lost its handle, I was tarpon fishing, and the handle broke off when I was fighting tarpon.
Pet's heads are falling off.
But it's just not designed for tarpon. It was undergun for tarpon, and I paid for it because I broke a reel. But same thing, right? This just is not just the line capacity. Nothing about this is ready for tarpon. Whereas this guy, this thing's a tank, and it's less expensive.
Yeah.
It's a smaller rating size, but it gets the job done.
By the way, if you can find these, I don't know if we still have them in our store or not.
We do. Yeah, we actually just got some in. That's why
I don't think they're going to make these. I just my guess, because they're coming out with the new BGMQs. I don't think they're going to make them in this size much longer. So this is. Luke and I both, we've spent our own hard-earned money. We have the same insider discounts you guys do, and I would highly recommend you get one of these for a tarpon reel, even if you just have one for and sharks, for beach fishing. I mean, it holds a ton of line, and it's just an absolute beast. And especially when you talk to some of the guys like Captain Mark Hollywood, I mean, this is what he's using on his boat, because he gets newbies on there that doing everything absolutely wrong possible. And he's like, these things just keep on working. They are just tanks.
Yeah, I was blown away by it. And so now even for
and if you're listening, that's the Daiwa BG, the old school 45 hundo.
But then if you go up to the BGMQ, I don't have one, I have a 2500, one of those. The size on that is totally different. So the BGMQ, it's to get the same size spool as the BG 4500. Now you have to go up to like a 6,000, maybe even 8,000. Yep. It's a very different size, which again it's just unfortunate. It's kind of like rods where the mediums don't always mean mediums. So this just want to make sure that you knew that a 2500 isn't always a 2500. Same for 3,000. Yep. You really need to look at the specs. It's important it's a little bit time consuming, but it is important. So that was really just I would say the core lesson is just pay attention more so to the specs than to the 3,000 or 4,000 or whatever the high level label is, because there's just not one size fits all, structure for those.
Yep. And pricing on most of them are pretty similar, the 2,500 and the 3,000.
What do you mean?
In terms of the cost?
Price? Yeah, from going for the 2,500, it's usually the same. It's rare that the price is different. The price jumps usually happen on the 4,000s and higher, but now in many cases they do, it's called family pricing, where that's the entire line.
Right. Which is why I still kind of like the 3,000, just to have a little bit more line. it's one of those silly things as fishermen, right? We talked about with the fluoro versus mono, where, I mean, you've done countless tests that show you don't really have to have fluoro, especially when you talk about, if it was the same price, then yeah, but it's like night and day difference. A spool of fluoro liter versus mono, it's like 40x times, and it's crazy more expensive.
Yep.
And even the contests prove that mono is, in general, could do just the same in terms of fish catching. And yet, still in our minds, we're like, yeah, I kind of still want to buy some of that fluoro stuff, just in case. Right?
Yeah,
it's always having that little edge.
A lot of it's mental.
So funny.
A lot of it's mental.
I was going to pull up my movie quotes. I don't have them on me. We had a good friend that wrote us the thank you card for something we had done for him, and she wrote on there, I hope this helps you catch fish, or there's something flocked me like the salmon of Capistrano. And, Lauren, my wife, I was like, you know what the movie's from? She's like, no, no, I've heard that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I started writing up a checklist, really a quiz. We're going to make her watch Dumb and Dumber. Because we talked about this in the past podcast. A few of you, Joel, Joel remembers. And I saw a few comments about the movie quotes. And I mean, Dumb and Dumber is stuff that it's an American classic. I mean, I'm going to make the kids watch it, and we're going to do a full-on quiz. And I had some things in there like, what did Lloyd Christmas say after they ate the hot spice? You remember in the diner?
More tingly than hot?
Yeah, that's a great one. That was a fill in the blank. So you got the whole thing without even. It's more than blank. Some really, really great ones in there. What was the biggest IOU? What was the item?
250,000. You want to hold on to that one?
Yeah, well, what was the item?
Oh, Lamborghini.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody knows
you have
this.
to watch this. What was the name of the animal that was killed, an endangered species?
Oh, the snow owl, man.
The Icelandic snow owl.
Yeah.
Almost missed that one. There's a lot of snow owls out there. Everybody knows that, right?
He's getting pretty old.
What was some other ones I had in there? I know it was a two-part question. When driving Mary Swanson to the airport, what did Lloyd Christmas say that his dream was to have what? A company that he was a limo driver, but his dream was to do what? To have
a worm farm.
Yeah. Yes. And for the bonus part of that, what was the name of the company going to be?
I Got Worms.
I Got Worms. Yes.
How do we even get here?
What do you mean? How do we not get here?
All right.
This is where all conversations go, to Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, for those who haven't watched Dumb and Dumber, we apologize. But also
no, we don't apologize. You should apologize to us for having no class whatsoever, right? I mean, I was so angry with my wife that day. I was like, what? How is this possible?
Well, if that's the biggest problem y'all are doing great.
That's a good point. But, thank you, Lauren. I love you.
I'm just glad I aced the quiz. That was not planned.
There's more questions. I just can't. So I had them all written down. I was really having fun just thinking through some kind of funny things that happened. I mean, the whole movie's just amazing.
We did the same thing for Seinfeld. Buddy hadn't watched it, and so he was like, if I watch an episode, I've told you, if you watch an episode and just tell me something happened, I'll tell you something else that happened in the same one. And he went to the earliest ones, and he never got me.
What was it? Do you remember?
I can't remember those early ones. That was a while. That was years ago. Now I haven't watched that show in forever.
It's a classic. Joel, you watched Seinfeld?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good
best.
one, dude. It's a good one. Cool. Well, guys, hopefully that was helpful. We will be doing a whole lot more. Let us know in the comments if you want us to do the podcast about the kind of the cheap reels we've been buying from China. Some of them we've used, some of them they're so bad we don't even want to waste putting line on them.
And so far, just as thanks for watching, so far we haven't yet found one of those cheapos that beats the core ones, even the lower end ones from the big companies. So as soon as we do, we'll let you know. But so far,
we're dying to find one that works. Part of our whole mission here is, in terms of our Insider Club, is to help you guys get best tackle at the best prices and save money. And so we're constantly trying stuff. It's just you can't beat them. There's a reason these big companies have put so much time and effort and into one, testing, and then two, quality control too. That's something I've noticed when buying some of this stuff from China. Is the quality control is just, it's not there. I mean, that's kind of what you're paying for with a brand, even with us. Like, what you guys don't see behind the scenes, because we're technically the manufacturer for Slam Shady 2.0, Alabama Leprechaun, the Power Prawn, I mean, all of this stuff, and we get, I mean, I don't want to say it's 10%, but it's somewhere north of 5 are just not there. And then we just have to either trash them, or sometimes we give them to our fishing coaches. Maybe we do something fun. We just give them away to some of our members, because some of the stuff we can't use. Either it's a packaging issue, or a tail's missing, or the color's off on some of the Slam Shadies. Like, we just don't want to put it out there. So we that's why people are like, man, how do you have so many employees? Because we're up to like 15 now, including you and me at Salt Strong. And a lot of it is there in our store, and every time we get a big delivery in, and we have people that are opening up every one and looking at it and tossing the stuff to the side that just doesn't look perfect. So that quality control it's essential. And even our stuff, like all of the Slam Shadies and Leprechauns, the Bombers, and those are all made in USA. These, of course, are made in Brazil, the Power Prawns. But all that stuff even made in the USA, and we still have some of those issues. And so it's an ongoing battle with just making sure that we put the best stuff out there and help you guys save money, and of course save time by putting you in the feeding zone. So hope you guys like this one. The next one we do, except we were supposed to be on the water today, but it's been crazy weather, as you probably know. So the next one will be out in the water, and we'll catch some big fish. Yeah,
and sorry we couldn't give a conclusive, hey, you have to get this reel or this one, because there's just so many variables. But just know, for insiders, and I'll put a link down below, we do have some lessons on the macro learnings, where it's the cross-brand comparison on which ones are just the best value overall, comparing the price to performance. And so for inshore fishing, right, for the inside bays, we have one. I'm about to make one for like passes and inlets, where, hey, like, what reel should I get that I'm not overspending, but it has the right performance? So we'll put a link down below to all that. We have the same thing for rods and for lures, as you've probably seen so far if you're an insider member. But in case you haven't, we'll link that down below. That's just a benefit of the club, just to get through all the fluff, and just hardcore. Here's which ones you probably should get, and then here's the ones that you probably should not get, because the price to performance is just terrible.
Yep. Cool, guys. Hopefully that helps. For you insider members, thank you so much. As I kind of teased earlier, we literally do have over $1 million now. Yes, $1 million of pending tackle deliveries. So a lot of that obviously is rods and reels. And so that will be happening here sooner than later. We're praying. But I saw even, Vietnam, where some of the Daiwa reels are made. Like you saw that, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
They just closed down like a big chunk of their, economy because of that second COVID strand. So it's just like, golly, this stuff. Yep. But good news is a lot of the stuff is already made. Now it's just the shipping issues. It's getting it over here in these big containers, doing the quality control, and then finally making it into our tackle store we can send out to you. So a lot of tackle on its way, and a lot of really cool things we're doing behind the scenes for our insider members. Just hit 25,000. You guys saw that on some of the social media we just posted. Hit 25,000 members. So guys, thank you so much. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming, and it's gonna be a big year.
Absolutely.
Some new little lures, tackle, released Fred, Gold Digger, Slam Shady,
the Moonwalker,
Z-Man, Moonwalker. Thank you guys for the feedback on that. I think we had 1,000 members. So it was a BOGO. So about 2,000 Moonwalkers are out there in circulation. That's the topwater lure that we put the single inline hooks and kind of changed some of the rattles and a little bit of the look, and got some really cool feedback. So already working on Moonwalker 2.0. Moonwalker Do. Should we call it part do?
Whatever, yeah. The thing just fly where it already works, but I'm really excited about that one with the tweaks coming in and still getting some feedback. And so we're just taking in all the user feedback just to make the perfect topwater plug. That's the goal. The perfect, right out of the box, ready to rock, and so far it's looking awesome.
Cool. All right, guys. Oh, I know the other question. Yep. This is a really easy one, but what round of drinks did Seabass order for him and his?
Boilermakers.
Making 4 Boilermakers.
That was an easy one.
I knew you'd get that, but my wife certainly didn't. Joel, did you know? Joel didn't know.
What's the name of the restaurant they were in?
Ooh, I don't know.
I can see the sign. I can't remember the name of it. If anybody knows the restaurant they were in,
that's a good one.
Where they had the pepper.
Yeah. Like talking to these old
I used to know.
laid back country folks on here. What's the soup of the day? No, what's the soup du jour? It's the soup of the day. That does sound good. I think I'll have that. All right, guys, we out. Peace.
See ya.